Welcome to another episode of Missing Pieces. This one is going to be a bit of a follow-up on last week's episode, which if you remember back, we got into some deeper topics, one of which happened to be education and homeschooling. And something happened in our lives this week that's kind of pulling me back to that place, as well as some really great listener feedback that you left. So I think we can discuss this a little bit further and maybe push that conversation forward a bit more. But before we get into that, I've got to discuss the thing that maybe you're here for, or maybe you don't care about at all, and that was the week that was my life. And we're going to take this all the way back to last Sunday, the day that the previous episode came out, where Cody set up, I guess, a bit of a date for us. We ended up going out to the Mohegan Sun Arena. That's in Wilkes-Barre. If you're from Pennsylvania, you know. And we went to see the Trans-Siberian Orchestra. If you've never heard of the Trans-Siberian Orchestra, they make just some banger Christmas music. You've probably heard their music before if you don't know them directly, but it's just some like a group of people that play various instruments, and they go up there and just rock it out on stage. So they have like the traditional Christmas songs, and they played some new ones as well. It was quite the experience. They had a light show like no other. It was like strobes and flashing, a little bit maybe too much. Like, I'm there for the music, but it was just like a whole like sensory overload experience. It was just super loud, super bright, and I guess what people really love in concerts. And it was a good time where we got to like listen to just awesome music in real life. It's not something that we commonly do, going to concerts. But we did like a pro move, like before it ended, because it was such a disaster trying to get in there. We got there what we thought was like 45 minutes early, like thinking, man, we're going to beat all the crowd. Nope. Everybody was going to this thing, and they had like various entrances to go in, and it was like we barely got there on time. So I would recommend, if you ever go to a concert like that, or probably any event, make sure you go really early, because if you plan to get there like when it's starting, you're going to be sitting out in the parking lot, or probably more likely out on the street waiting to get in. So knowing that, right before it left, maybe there was like one or two songs left, Cody and I like bailed out. We did the pro move and just left, and we got out before all the traffic. And it was good that we did that, because it was dark out, it was pouring rain, it would have been a disaster. So we just skirted right out of the parking lot, and it was fun. But man, it was a lot to take in. And I think we both kind of came to the conclusion that with concerts, I think I'd rather just be in the comfort of my own home, like listening to it or watching it on TV. And I've heard other people have the same sentiment when it comes to like sporting events and things like that. It is like, there's something about being there like in person, and maybe like seeing this person that you really look up to, that's whether they're an athlete or if they're a musician or whatever. But in this case, like I couldn't, like if all the people from the Trans-Siberian Orchestra walked down the street in front of me, I wouldn't know any of them from anyone else. Like, it would just be anything. So it was a nice experience, and I'm glad we got to do that. It was actually our second time going to see the Trans-Siberian Orchestra. We did it once before, back in like maybe like 2012, something like that. It was right after we bought our house, and I think I was vlogging at the time, but I don't think I got any footage of it at all, which is a real tragedy, because it would have been great to see like what life was like then, what we were like. I remember going out for dinner with that. I think we went out to like Outback Steakhouse or something like that. But it'd just be cool to look back on our lives from 10 years ago, like pre-Clark Man and stuff, just to see. But speaking of dinner after that, man, Cody found this place. It's called Bank and Vine. That's in Wilkes-Barre, and it was like the best dinner that I've had like ever. It was so good. Like, they had their menu, and I was a little reluctant to go there because I'm a simple man, and the food there, it was just apparently owned by this guy that used to have a restaurant in New York City, but then he brought it there for some unknown reason. And like, a lot of the stuff, I had no idea what's even on the menu. But when she said this special, the waitress said that they had like this filet with like this almost like a twice baked potato, I was like instantly sold on this. And it was absolutely incredible. Everything was just so darn good. And we got dessert. Cody got, I think, some type of fish, some type of like, shoot, I can't remember what it was. I'd have to go back and watch the video. I haven't edited the content from last week, so I'm going all off the cuff of my head. But she got fish, and everything was just amazing. So that was awesome. But then after that, like, you think, like, okay, that's the end of the night. Well, no. Things got even crazier after that, because we decided that we were going to go to the Mohegan Sun, not the arena, but the casino, and do a little bit of gambling. We haven't gambled since we went to Niagara Falls, which I think was in 2013. I do have video of that. And I just thought it'd be something fun to do, to go in and play slot machines and stuff, to go in with like a predetermined amount of money. And once we lose it, we lose it. And we came up with like the amount of money that we would be comfortable losing between the two of us was $200. We decided like that was our limit, and we would go and play. And once that money was gone, we would leave, and it would just consider it to be the cost of entertainment, right? Well, that didn't exactly happen because we went in and we got some promotional credits for like signing up there and stuff. And Cody used $1 of that promotional credit on this one machine it was a dollar machine, slot machine, hit the button, rolled the things, and she happened to win $200. It was like, oh my God, we should gamble more often. No, don't do that. But she won $200. My money completely disappeared from like what we had on our little promotion. So I think it was only like $20 they gave us. So I ended up putting my own 20 in, and then I won $80. So we were up $280 going to this casino, but it was like so early, you know, like we were hardly there, and we had won. So we went and got a celebratory drink, and then we came back and we decided what we'd do is we'd put away that $200 that Cody won. And we would just gamble around with the $80 that I won, you know, easy come, easy go. And we did that. I think we were there for like two hours, 2.5 hours, something like that. And we played until the $80 was gone. So we walked away $200 to the positive instead of $200 down. And I consider that a massive win. I think that kind of happened to us when we gambled last time. I remember the one night I had like a really nice streak or whatever, and I left positive. And then the next night Cody had a positive streak. So we've never really lost at casinos. But I will say my thoughts on casinos are this. One thing I don't love so much is like there's smoking allowed in there, which seems so like archaic, but I understand you don't want to have people leaving your casino to have a smoke break, because then they might reconsider their life choices and end up leaving. But like I remember the one machine we were at, and I don't know if there's a smoking section or not, because the place is just like so wild and like confusing inside, which is again by design. There's this lady just sitting there with like a cigarette like burning in an ashtray. She's like 2 machines down from me, just watching someone else play. I don't know if she was like out of money or what, but she's just like watching someone like that's around the corner like playing the slot machine. Hey, free entertainment, I suppose. But I didn't love that, and I also don't love the fact that there's like no skill involved in this. I know there are some casino games that have some skill. Like you could go play blackjack, I guess, that has some skill. You could play various, like you could play poker, I suppose. I didn't want to get into all that. I felt like that was well beyond me. I just wanted to play some machines. But I realized like what I love more than that, you know, obviously it's fun with the idea of winning money at a casino, but I'd much rather take that money to an arcade and just go have fun there. I know I can't win any money. I could win some tickets, I suppose, and trade it for a trinket. But I love the idea of playing something that's like skill-based. I love like I don't want to just press a button and watch things spin around. It's like bloop, 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 loss, hit it again, bloop, bloop, bloop. Every time you do that, there's $1 that disappears. I don't love that. And I'd just rather like go do something that like I play a fighting game or play skeet ball or whatever. Like you can like something that requires something of you rather than it's like being a zombie. And like when you look around in there, I know some people are there like us just having a good time for the night, but you have to wonder when you look around these casinos, like how many people are just like here all the time? How many people have like this kind of like addiction to this and have lost everything they have to this. In fact, the next morning we actually stayed there overnight. We stayed at the place because it was like I think like an hour. We probably could have drove home. It was like an hour and a half drive home, but by the time we had done all that, like by the time we drove there, did the concert, went out for dinner, did the gambling and all that, it was nice just to kind of go to sleep, I guess. And the next morning we went down to get some coffee, which was complimentary. Thank you. And there was this employee there, and I saw him walk up to a guy and he called him by name, like a patron there or a customer. And I was just thinking like, man, how often would you have to be here for one of the employees to actually know you by name? Like obviously a regular. And I have no ill will towards people that decide that, I'm going to go gambling, and maybe they have a budget. You can't assume that everyone is taking it to the extreme. I know I would. Like I could see myself getting addicted to that, which is why it's best for me to just avoid that type of lifestyle in any way. But like to go there all the time enough where people know your name, like Cheers, probably not for the best. And I couldn't help but thinking like that night when we went to bed, I was thinking like, I wonder how much money this place brought in today. Like obviously there's a lot of people there, and this is like a Sunday night. Sunday night, and the parking lot was full. I was like, how much money did they make today? Like they gave us $200, but we kind of gave it back to them because we ended up staying there, and like I think it was kind of like a wash. We should have went home and slept, but how much money are they pulling off these people? And I wonder like what the circumstances were where they put that casino in. Was it one of those things where they promised like all these jobs and opportunities and all this great stuff for the community, all the things that it would bring in? I wonder if those things happened. I wonder if it did positively affect the people in the area, because they like the whole town seems kind of depressed in general. And I just wonder like, do the people from the town, do they all go there and gamble, and does that money just get siphoned out to like the headquarters? Does it actually get invested back in? How much tourism does all this bring in? I just would love to know all these things. I'd love to like see the perspective of someone that's lived in the town for many years, and how the casino has helped or hindered the community there. Be nice to know. So yeah, that's my thoughts on casino. I guess concerts and casinos, not necessarily something that I want to make a part of my life. I'm not like rushing to go back. And again, like when you're hitting that button, and say you're on a machine that is like $1, and you hit that, like $1 is disappearing every time you hit this button, or even 50 cents or whatever the case is. I found like the really small machines, like the ones that you play for like 10 cents or 20 cents, it's just not exciting at all. It's like bleeding, it's like slow death, It's like I lost 20 cents, lost 20 cents, lost 20 cents. Made 15 cents, lost 20 cents, lost 20 cents, made 50 cents, lost, it's just like, I mean, you could sit there all day and like not really win or lose anything if you're just there to, watch the things spin and hit the buttons. But once you hit that $200 thing, it's like, ooh, I want to do more of that. So yeah, I don't know. It's not for me. I'm sure there's people out there that love it. I was thinking what I would love to do more than anything. And I used to have this game. I don't know if they have modern ones or not, but I had a game for Sega Genesis called Caesar's Palace, where it was like a actual casino, kind of like an overhead view of a casino, and you had a character, and he had so much money that he started with, and there's an ATM there, and you could go around and just gamble in this place. And I remember actually liking the game as a kid. I would play the roulette where the ball spins around and lands. I would do like the slot machines, and it had like this really cool like sound and animation when you pulled the arm down. And there was a bunch of games that I just didn't even know how to play at the time when I was 10 years old or whatever. But I was like, this would be really fun to do like live streams on, where you're just like gambling at the casino. I know there's nothing to win or lose. And I'm sure there's, now that I think about it, there's probably some games like that where they want you to put in real money, and then you play in the game, and then you can win or lose real money. And it's probably tied to your credit card. I'm sure it's all been done. And that's very dangerous. So don't do that, guys. That's my word of advice to you. Stay away from gambling. But it is fun when you can go there just with like a one-off experience, thinking like, hey, I'm going to go in and we're going to spend all this money and just have fun and enjoy ourselves. And if you can walk away with a win like that, it's just so cool. Just don't think that that's the norm. And when you win, walk away. Like we should have gambled for 30 minutes, taken our $280 and drove home, but that wasn't the case. We enjoyed the rest of the night, and I have no regrets for that. I was happy that we got to do that, and I got some video there too. In fact, I was surprised that I didn't get in trouble for filming, because I remember in Niagara Falls I got in trouble when I tried filming inside the casino there. Here, it didn't seem like anybody stopped me. I wasn't being like overly I wasn't having my phone out and stuff. I was being a little conspicuous with it, but I was just going to claim ignorance if I got caught. Like, oh, I'm sorry. It's not like we're like rigging the casino games or anything like that. I could see if you're doing it like blackjack and somebody's helping you count cards from home or whatever, but I'm just filming my experience there. If anything, it's like an advertisement, I would say. But that was fun, and that was our Sunday. Things got even crazier, though, the next day, which was Monday, because I did something that I've been like trying to do for a couple years, and that was buy a car. I actually bought a car. If you guys saw the vlogs from last week, I test drove a Ford Explorer ST, and while it was super fast and super big and super luxurious, it was also super expensive. And I realized, like, in my life, like, am I actually going to take advantage of this vehicle? It's like $51,000. It had third row seating, and I was like, it'd be really cool to have all this extra space, but like, when are we ever going to put someone back there? I was like, maybe 2 times a year when Cody's parents, we take them to like Knoebels or go to the fair or something like that. And then it had a captain's seat in the back, and I'm like, where's Roxy going to sit? There's nowhere for her. I could heave her up in the back, but then she's going to be scratching up the back of it and then getting face grease and nose prints all over the back windows. And I was like, I don't think this is for me. So on Thanksgiving, I test drove my mother and father-in-law's Subaru Forester. You guys know I'm a Subaru fanboy or whatever. And I love the car that we had, the Crosstrek, that just didn't have enough storage space. And the Subaru Forester kind of alleviates that. And I had been looking at reviews of people that owned Foresters and watching every video that I could find. And the consensus that I found was that I can't find someone that doesn't like their vehicle. Everybody that owns a Forester loves a Forester. So I was like, okay, let me just test drive that. I had just drove the Explorer. I was like, let me test drive their Forester and see what it's like. And I love the feel of it. I love the driving experience. It really just felt so much better. Like it, I don't know how to explain it. Like the Ford felt like I was driving like this giant boat around, and the Subaru felt like I was kind of driving like a rally car. I know it's not fast like that. Like it's obviously not a WRX, but it just felt good. And it was like the perfect size. So I was like, you know what? Monday I'm going to go and I'm just going to test drive one. And luckily they had two of them that in the setup that I wanted, or the configuration that I wanted at our local dealership. I wanted this new color. In 2022, they revised the look of the outside of the Forester, which I think made it look really good. They added this package also called the Wilderness Package, which gives it like a bunch of cladding. It raises it up a little bit, puts like a black decal on the hood for like anti-glare. It took it from being like a car that your grandma would drive to something that looks kind of cool. And they had this new color called Geyser Blue. And I loved everything about this. And I've watched tons of reviews and stuff. So I'm like, I'm going to go test drive this. And I did. But before I did that, I was like, before we do anything here, I want to know what you guys would give me for my trade-in for my Subaru. And I wanted like between $9,000 and $10,000. And I got $9,800 is what they're offering. Plus it was $3,000 off of the MSRP on the Forester that I was looking at, because it's 2022 and they're getting ready for 2023s. Do I care about the year? Heck no. So I took this thing for a drive. I liked it. We did the deal. Cody came in. I decided that I was going to go by myself to save her all the time, because you know how it is at car dealers. You freaking sit there forever waiting for them to do the simplest of things. So I said, all right, you get the paperwork together. I'll go home, unload all the stuff from this Subaru, bring my wife and son back. We'll do the paperwork, and then we'll drive away in the new one. And that's exactly what we did. And I love it. My gosh, it's amazing how much technology has progressed in the last 9 years. Going from a 2013 to a 2022 is crazy. I love the extra space of this. It's just like the perfect utilitarian vehicle for me. And the fact that I got it for so much less than that Explorer just made so much sense financially, because you guys know that's like who I am. I could get like a sports car or whatever, get something crazy, but I'm like, where am I at in life? I'm a nearly 38-year-old dude with a wife, a kid, and a dog. Do I need sport mode? Not necessarily. The Subaru does have that. I'm not really interested. I drive the thing like an old man. I don't even think I haven't even put the accelerator down the whole way. I'm just driving my Subaru, driving it nice and easy, nice and slow. And I'm, of course, very paranoid about everywhere that I park it. Like, I don't want to park near anybody. It's going to door ding me. So I'm like parking out in the middle of the actual wilderness. Like, I am taking this thing through the woods just to park it. So I'm kidding. But, you know, you start to worry about your new baby. But man, I just like go out in the garage and I just look at it and I'm like, I love that color so much. And everything about it's got black rims. It's got like this orange or like gold like detailing on it for the wilderness thing. The interior is nice. And what I love about it is it feels very at home to me, because it is very much like the Crosstrek, just kind of like stretched out and beefed up and with more tech. And that's what I like. Unfortunately, I did give up my roof bars that were on the Crosstrek because they were unique to that particular vehicle, and I lost my hitch. So I'm probably going to have to put those things on if I want to haul the bikes, or put the cargo top thing on top of it. But we might have enough room now, because the back end of it is so much like squared off that we could probably fit all of our stuff inside. But it is nice when you go to the beach and stuff to be able to put like sandy things, not necessarily in your car, but up in the rooftop box, along with some other like big things like boogie boards and RC cars and whatever else you can throw in there, cases of water, things like that. But yeah, I think I made the right decision. It really didn't set me back too much money. I didn't take any loan out or anything like that. And the guy was, I think, kind of taken back by that. He like kept kind of discussing, like, he's like, oh, you're financing. He's like, oh, you're not financing. I'm like, nope, I'd rather not, because why pay someone money to borrow for a car? If that was the case, I would have just kept my old one. And I probably could have, like, it did make me sad. And Cody kind of got emotional too when we let that Subaru go, because it's been a part of our lives like forever, right? Like, we got that, I remember the day we got it in 2013. It was May of 2013. So that's been with us since like our original house. We brought Clarkman home in that car. That car was with us like for everything that we've done, everything up until now. And it's just, it sucks because like I've taken such good care of it. I have all the maintenance records. I've kept it as nice as I could possibly keep a car with 100,000 miles on it. And to know like it'll probably just go off to auction kind of bums me out, you know, like that. We could have sold it locally, but I was thinking like I'd probably sell it for like 10,000, and if them offering me 98 plus the sales tax savings of not having to pay the sales tax on the new car, it ended up coming out to like 10.5, and that was as good as I want to do. Plus you get around all of the rigmarole of someone coming to look at it and test driving it and then haggling with you and wanting to take it wherever, you know, like I didn't want to get into all that, so I guess it was for the best, but it's sad to see that baby go. This one, this Forester, I don't know if I'm going to own it as long as I owned that car for. I was thinking, like, I definitely owned the Crosstrek longer than I should have. Like, after about year 8, we started getting into things where I had to get, like, new fluids put into it, like, for transmission and CVT, or I don't know. I'm not going to pretend like I'm a mechanic. But then, like, things started, like failing here and there, like just from wear and tear, not like engine wise or transmission wise, but like rubber things that were on the car. Or like, again, I don't know mechanics, but I had to put some money into this in the last few years. So I think the way to go with this car is drive it for like 3 to 5 years, depending on how many miles we put on it, which I don't drive that much. But I want to drive it until it hits like where Subaru's warranties run out, and then maybe trade it on something else. With my old car, that was like 60,000. I had that plan, but then ultimately, like, we just kept driving it. So I think this one is like, it's like 50,000 or something like that. 3 years, 50,000. But I was thinking, you know, with the amount of money that these cars retain in like their value and trading in, like even after almost 10 years of driving at 100,000 miles, I still got almost half of what I paid for that Subaru back out of it. I could upgrade a little more often. We don't need to hold the same car all the time. My ultimate vehicle right now, after watching a ton of reviews, like if I could have gotten one, I probably would have. And it's what got me kind of looking at Fords in general. I really want one of the Broncos. Not a Bronco Sport, but like a Ford Bronco. I just think they're so freaking cool. Like I love Jeeps, obviously. This is kind of like Ford's answer to Jeep, but I think it's better, and it's not a Chrysler product, which is always a good thing. You can't order them. I talked to the guy at the dealership. It's like, you can't even get one right now. So I was thinking maybe I drive this as like my in-between car for like a couple years, maybe 2 years, and then I upgrade to that, which is going to be a lot more money. In fact, I think if you really get a kitted out Bronco, it could be as much as what that Explorer was. But overall, like, I'm very happy with what I got. Again, it feels like coming home to something that, like, it's like your house got a little bit of an upgrade. You're like, oh wow, we got the kitchen redone. We got extras, like put an addition onto the back. That's what it feels like, and that's what I love. I love Subaru cars. They just feel so good. And again, everybody that owns them just loves them. And the only people that seem to like want something other than a Forester tends to be sometimes Toyota people. But then I see Toyota people ditching their like RAV4 for a Subaru. So it all comes down to personal taste. And I know this is something that I like. And when I drove it, I was just like, I love this. I love it. So I'm very happy. And the saga of me hunting for a vehicle for the last 2 years has come to an end. It's nice to see that inventory seemed to be coming back a little bit. Maybe Toyota's, I remember I was going to try to get a RAV4, but they told me like they had none in stock, and if they got one, I'd have to pay $5,000 over MSRP as like their fee. And I was like, nope, no thank you. So it's just nice to find something not only at retail, but at a discount, and then getting a nice value for my trade and everything working out, and getting something that is new, reliable, and should suit us for many years. Like I have no doubt with my driving, I could probably drive that car for probably longer than what I drove the Crosstrek, considering it's not a commuter. Maybe we'll see. We'll see what happens. I look at a lot of car stuff now. Like my algorithm has like put me into that world, and you just never know what the future holds. So if the market kind of gets back to normal and vehicle prices kind of fall in line with that, and the Bronco comes in stock, maybe in a few years we'll do that. But why? Let's just enjoy the moment, enjoy what we got. So that was me buying a car, and you'll see video on it, of course, and you'll see it in all of our videos when we're traveling in the future, if you're curious what that looks like. But yeah, it's pretty sweet, at least for me. Outside of that, this week there wasn't a whole lot of crazy things that happened. I kind of just went into work mode since I had taken so much time off, and I'm happy to announce like all of my channels are running like a top, We've got Lego videos happening. Vlogs are popping off. I'm recording every day still as a part of the No 0 Days thing. I got gaming content coming out. We're doing live streams on that. The podcasts are happening. It's all good in that front, and I'm happy about that because it's always so hard for me to balance everything. It's like balancing plates in your hands, and I'm trying to do 4 of them now, and it seems to be working out. Speaking of podcasts, though, Cody made a podcast with me this week that you probably saw. In fact, it got an incredible number of views versus my normal podcast, so I should probably just have her take this channel over, honestly. But it was on a topic that a lot of people were asking about and very curious about, like, why does Cody still teach? Why is she able to go to the gym with you? Why is she home during the day? How are you guys having so much time together? Well, she answered that question in that video, but if you didn't see it, she's on a sabbatical. She took this year off, mainly due to like mental health reasons and also just wanting to have a little bit of a break. And I know she has like guilt centered around this, and we talked about that in that video. But as far as I'm concerned, this is a benefit of the job. And if you need to use something like this, if you truly feel like you need it, you're able to do it. That's what it's there for. And it's nice that the teachers have a union and the teachers are able to negotiate these type of things into their contracts to have stuff like that. Because I know a lot of people, like looking back at my old job, I couldn't even just take a week off. They'd be like, yeah, no. I'd be like, okay, I'm just going to stay here and I'm going to, deal with it, I guess. That's the difference, I guess, between working for like a corporation or working for a school, which, as we discuss things here a little bit later, schools aren't all good, but it is nice that they, at least here in Pennsylvania, in this school district in particular, they look out for their employees. And I hope other people that are in that position where they feel like with such anxiety and maybe like getting into like the world of depression or, just feeling overwhelmed, I hope that they can take the time that they need to do that as well. And it's good for us in general too. I love having Cody home more, obviously. Clark Man he probably loves it even more because she's getting that time with him that I've been enjoying the last 5 years, and it only happens once in your life. So I'm glad that she's doing it. Next year is definitely going to be a challenge, like going back to that. I have like entertained the thought of just doing YouTube and making that our thing. But again, as we mentioned in that video, it's nice having health insurance, and it's nice having that stability when it comes to income, because this could all disappear tomorrow. But I say to her the same thing that I say to anyone. You're still employable. You're still a teacher with 10 years of experience. I'm sure after you're out of it, it's a little hard. She has built up like seniority there. She's got a pension, all that good stuff that comes with working at a place for a long time. So it's probably best that she stays. And I think ultimately, like we're just going to go back to that and then see how it plays out, because you don't know what the future holds. But we're just kind of navigating it as we go, which is, I think, about the best that you can do. In other news, we're gonna talk again about school. I just have like 2 little topics here. I want to talk about, this is related to my car. We'll talk about changing taste. My car came with Sirius XM satellite radio or whatever, and I put it on like the 90s channel because I was like, oh, that's fun. And a song came on that I remember really liking back when I was a kid or teenager, I guess. And now listening to it, like I just can't even listen to it. And I just thought it was kind of funny, like regardless of anything, I think it's funny that throughout our lives, how our tastes change. Just like my shower topic of the week, or whatever you want to call it, the thing that I was thinking about, it's so weird how, you may be so passionate about something at a certain point in your life, regardless of what that is. And I'm sure if you're an adult, you've experienced this, where you went through certain phases in your life. And then like as you become an adult, that changes. And it just goes to show me like nothing is fixed. Nothing is set in stone. Our tastes change, our interests change. Everything is always kind of fluid. And the person that you are yesterday may not be the person you are today, and the person that you are tomorrow may not be the person you are today. And it's just kind of cool to know that we're always changing and evolving, and how things that we take in and like thoughts that we have can really influence us in one direction or another. Speaking of influencing us in one direction or another, let's talk about the school thing, I guess. So this week, Cody submitted in paperwork for Clark Man's school to allow him to take these educational trips that we're going to be taking. There's about, I guess, 2 solid trips, that may be 3, depending on how much school he's going to miss. And the school's policy, as we found out, is that you're allowed exactly 5 days of absences for educational purposes, like with your family. Obviously, this year being that Cody's on a sabbatical and we have these opportunities, we'd like to take advantage of that, being able to go places and experience things while we can. And we submitted into the principal, and Cody wrote up this long thing describing like what our plans are and what Clark would be gaining from that, and how that would positively affect him. That compounded with the fact that Clark is, as I mentioned last week, kind of at the top of his class, and his teacher has essentially said, like, in terms of reading and math, like he's peaked, and we may need to like find new material for him, because otherwise he's going to spend the next 6 months just like existing there, and whatever I think like whatever advantage he has now, it may shrink because he's not going to be challenged, which is an issue for me. And my biggest issue with school in general is that you spend a lot of time there, and if you're going to spend all that time, I think it should be time where you're being challenged or pushed ahead in some way. And I hate to think of Clarkman being there like 7 hours a day or whatever, just kind of existing, while other kids that are at like this level are trying to get brought up here. And then they got some kids up here that are just kind of waiting for everybody else. And like no one really wins except for the people that are right in the middle. And the thing with averages is that there's not very many people that are like right in the center of things. It's like a curve, and you have people all over that. But as a teacher, I totally understand, because you can't teach to everyone. You got to do the best that you can with what you got. And I truly believe that these teachers really are. My issue comes though is with the principal declining Clark's opportunities to do these trips, because I feel like there's way more that he could accomplish out in the world with us as his teachers than he would spending that same exact week sitting within the walls of that school, learning whatever it is that he may or may not be learning as a second grader at almost a third grade level. So I have an issue with that, and we're still trying to navigate it. But it really brought up this comment that Bricksar left for me last week. He left from this like right after I put out the podcast, and when this happened, all I could think of was this message that he left, and I'm going to read that for you here. He says, "I don't understand the negative view of homeschool. I talked about homeschooling last week, in particular, like my concern with Clarkman getting the like socialization side of things, right? Like I know that Cody and I could teach him and train him in a way that would be more tailored to him, and maybe make him a stronger student, or push him further than what the school could ever push him, and also tailor to his interests. But my concern was the social side of things. Like, it's not normal just to hang out with your dad, so we'd have to find ways to integrate him into society. And there are some things out there that I did some searching, and I'm like, well, maybe there's some options. But I'll go on with what he said. He said, "We got tired of the crap of public schools who only cared about attendance and not development." This is exactly what we ran into. It's almost like he's the Nostradamus of what our week was going to look at. Only care about attendance and not development. Best move ever, taking them out of public school. I remember having a conference with my daughter's math teacher, and the only thing I came away from the conference was, how is this woman teaching math? Our kids had plenty of social interaction outside of school, so social skills wasn't really a concern. I'd like to learn more about that. Like what things did you do? I know there's this one homeschool group in our area that I think like once a month they meet at like the trampoline place or whatever, and then they spend like 3 hours there, and I think the parents can kind of hang out and chat, and the kids can do their thing. There are things like that. There are like I made a joke, and I'll talk about this in this next comment. I made a joke about like crazy religious or crazy Christian groups, and that's what I like in my ignorance. I picture that's what these homeschooler families are, but I shouldn't think that, because that's coming from a place of ignorance, and I haven't really explored that. I think they exist. In fact, there are some in our area. I don't know what their philosophies are or anything, but they go under the guise of like various religions or denominations or whatever. And I don't know if that'd be the best fit for us necessarily, but I would love, like, if we were to take this route. And the reason I'm even thinking about this is kind of like because of what Bricksar said there, where they only really care about attendance. And that's true. Like, anybody that looked at what Cody wrote up and looked at Clark's record, I mean, you would see like, okay, this kid's definitely going to flourish if he were to take a trip to, let's say, Italy, for example, or to Hawaii, for example. And all the things that you can learn and experience there, think about how much more beneficial that would be for that student versus learning second grade math. And it's not a matter of like us not having him complete the work or assignments. We're happy to have him do all of the work that would be assigned to him that week before he leaves. If they want to make sure that he's all up to date and he's going to do everything that's required of him, we could have it all done and submitted and graded and everything before we even leave for that trip. So it's not a matter of getting out of work or him not putting in the effort that other kids are. It's, again, just comes down to, this is our policy. Everybody needs to be within this building. And I know why they do it. It's because a lot of kids, or I'm not going to say a lot of kids, but the kids that fall into this group of people that are repeated absentee people or truants, their parents aren't doing this kind of stuff. They're just existing. They're just being at home. They're doing nothing. And you got to have a thing where you have to mandate those people to be there. And it turns out that if it may come to this, that if we go on these trips and they are unexcused absences, that we could be fined. I don't know by the state, by the school, how that works, but you could be fined for him not being there. It's like a penalty to parents to make sure your kids actually go to school. And overall, I think that's a good plan. But I also think that you need to look at individuals in general. The only problem is if they allow an exception for Clark, what's to stop other people from abusing that? And that's the concern. Regardless, we're taking our trips. We do have some options in terms of the medical realm as to how we can possibly navigate this with a doctor's note. But it's like, it shouldn't come to that. Like they really, I hate how it's like schools, public schools in particular, just seem to be, this is for the greater good of everyone. And if that doesn't work for you, or if you don't fall directly into that, well, too bad, because we're doing the best we can, and they are. But I can't help but think, after going through this, that maybe Clark would be better off if I were to just teach him here from home. You know, I can, at this point, I can easily teach second grade or third grade math. Maybe once we get to fourth grade, could be problematic, but I could teach that. I could teach English. We could have a lot of fun. We could have adventures. We could go places. If we want to take a camping trip from like Wednesday to Friday, for example, we can do that. You know, and there's things to learn out in nature. There's all kinds of things to learn everywhere. Clark has an inclination to want to do graphic design and artwork. I could teach him all those things. I could have him make thumbnails for our videos. There's so much stuff that we can do, and I'm in a unique position to do as a self-employed, work-from-home person, that Clark could really flourish in this type of environment outside of the social thing. But again, maybe there's some options for that. I'm going to read some more comments here as I ponder this. This one comes from Natural Fitness Foodie. There may be some homeschool groups near you, probably not just crazy religious ones. Kind of offended by that. I hate to offend someone out of my ignorance, which is what I kind of felt like that was. I started homeschooling my kids in 2005. I have 4 kids. 2 have graduated. 1 graduated from public school. 1 graduated a year early from homeschool. In my experience, even crazy religious people have a lot of reasons to homeschool. Mostly wanting their kids to get a better education, more well-rounded, like what you want for Clark. Definitely look into groups in your area. There are groups that have nothing to do with religion. But don't rule out religious people. Some of us are a lot more religious and grounded than you might think. Exactly. Great episode. Keep up the good work. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. It's nice to hear from people that are like, that have taken this move that I'm considering. One thing that I do like is that it's not forever. You know, we could pull Clark out for 3rd grade, for example, and see how it goes. And if maybe he wants to go back in 4th grade, that's what we do. And that's another issue that I kind of have with the homeschooling thing. I don't want to make a decision for Clark that he would come to resent me for. You know, it's like, why'd you pull me out of school? And I missed out on all of these experiences that school kids have. Some good, I suppose, and some bad, possibly. But those experiences are experiences. And when you go out in the real world, you have to realize that that's probably the way the world's going to operate. It's not always going to be like this world that I've created here. It could be a lot of things, and some things aren't in your control. There are injustices. There are times where you're not going to be catered to. There's times where you have to kind of go with the flow. And there's times when you're going to have to deal with difficult colleagues or other students or whatever. All that stuff exists in the real world. And I do like the idea of Clark getting that. But I also like the idea that we could try to propel him as far forward as we can and give him that unique attention that he needs, or doesn't need, but could benefit from, while also kind of catering to his interests as well. That kind of stuff really is appealing to me. And Cody has kind of talked about, like, she's down with the idea, but she's like, you know, you're going to lose a lot of your time that you would be putting into, you know, video work and all the things that you do for your job. And you guys know I like to pile more things on than what you can imagine. More and more is the better, is how I feel. But I was thinking, like, what better goal is there? Or what better thing could I invest my time in than developing Clark Man? Like, isn't that my ultimate goal? And I have years and years, God willing, crazy religious. I have plenty of years after Clark graduates from school. I mean, we've got 10 years at this point that I can do whatever I want to do during the day. I'll have all these years where Clark won't even be here, you know? And it's like, maybe I should invest all that now. What better investment could I make than into making him the best person that I can? Isn't that what you're supposed to do as a parent? It's just so hard to make this decision for someone else and to know what's the right thing to do. It's very difficult. I'll continue on here. This is from Caliga. He says, or she says, Connexus Academy or K-12 seem to be good homeschooling options, and they give you your kids a test evaluating what level of learning your kid is at in each subject, then give them assignments based on that level in each subject. So if your kid is second grade in math but third grade in English, his lessons reflect that. I like that idea. It says, as a parent, the burden doesn't fall on us to create the curriculum and structure. My father did this with some of my younger siblings back when it was a new thing because he'd recently retired at the time, or had time. He said if they worked really hard, they could be done by noon. I love that idea too. I think about how much time Clark spends in school that isn't productive. Like, why are we there all day other than the fact that parents need somebody to watch their kids all day? And that's essentially what, in my more moving negatively view of school, that's what I feel like school is. It's just a place for people to have their kids watched while they work all day. And what happens there isn't nearly as important as the fact that they're there. And that's what the principal has signaled to me from like their policies and stuff. The next one, though, this comes from Builder Buds. This is the second part of a longer conversation that he started about Clark Man and maybe getting him into maybe advanced classes if there's a possibility. He says, not a fan of homeschooling. And he was a principal at one point, so this is his thoughts. He said, when I had students come to my building that were homeschooled, they were always very smart and ahead of the curve, but very socially awkward and certainly struggled in that department. This is just my experience, so I'm certain it's not the rule, but just thought I'd put that out there. I'm very curious about that too. Like, I wonder if that continues on beyond the initial shock of going to school. Like, I think about, say you were homeschooled your entire life. Then all of a sudden in like 5th grade, you decided that, you know what, I'm going to go to school. Think about how weird that would be, going into an institution like that and having like all these rules and structure and things that they've instituted. It'd be very hard to get into. Plus, like, kids are already formed bonds, and then you're like the new person and then probably treated differently because of that. I can imagine it would be very awkward going into a school system. It's like starting a new job, basically. You're kind of in that same boat, only instead of being an adult with all of the adult things that you've developed to cope with that, you're a kid. So I can see that. So I'd be curious to see a follow-up on that, whether these kids that did go into normal school, how long were they socially awkward? Or was this just like a permanent thing? Were they permanently stunted by that? That'd be a good topic. This next one comes from Lego Lockin. He gave me like a warning about reading the whole thing. You should see what people in your homeschool community are like and not just make assumptions. Again, I agree with that entirely. They may not be the crazies that I somehow in my mind picture. I don't even know where that came from, to be honest. Consider homeschooling Clark for 1 year, see how it goes. Again, that's what we're talking about with maybe it not being forever, but just to see. We're kind of leaning towards maybe seeing what his 3rd grade teacher was like and what that experience is, and then maybe making the decision there, because we're almost halfway through this year. Although if you decide to homeschool him, make sure he does social activities. And advice from a homeschooled freshman who has been homeschooled since 1st grade. So we have somebody that's on the ground getting homeschooled right now. This is great. As a 15-year-old who has been homeschooled since grade 1, my homeschool group is made up of mostly Christians. I am Christian, but I'm not homeschooled because of my religious beliefs. I'm homeschooled because of exactly the reasons you describe. My parents don't believe in the one-size-fits-all public school, but also that we shouldn't just memorize things to take a quiz and then forget them, but what we should actually know and remember and understanding them. In my town, I am able to take some classes at the middle school and high school, and after seeing people outside my immediate family once or twice a week from 1st to 6th grade, I was really socially awkward once I started taking classes at the middle school and 7th grade. So this is Builder Buds was the principal, and this is the student that he had come in. What I plan to do with my kids, if I homeschool them, is to have them be around people their age and have them do activities often so that they can have social experiences and not be awkward like I was. If you're at all worried about him graduating with a diploma, he may be able to go full-time just his senior year and graduate with his diploma. That's how my high school is, so yeah. And then one last comment. came from Blake Ewig. He says, I think Clark would really flourish in a Montessori school. And this isn't, you're not the first person that's brought that up. And I think that's going to be my YouTube rabbit hole for this week. I think Montessori schools, from my very brief introduction to it, or just general Google searching, is that it's a schooling system that kind of caters to kids' general interest, as opposed to having like, okay, hour 1 we do math, hour 2 we do reading, hour 3 is social studies. This is like, oh, you like drawing, well, let's do some more art. Oh, you like math, let's incorporate math into your drawing. Like it's a thing that kind of caters to students. And again, I understand that schools can't do that, because even with a class of like 15 people, which is what I think the average elementary school is in our area, that's a lot of planning that one person has to do, while simultaneously managing these kids throughout the day and making sure that they don't hurt themselves or hurt each other. And it seems really unlikely that you could get that kind of attention from a regular classroom. So I don't blame the school system at all. I am a little frustrated with the aspect of, like, obviously we can give Clark these opportunities that many kids wouldn't have, yet because there is this policy enforced that we're not allowed to do that. It almost feels like we owe something to the school, which shouldn't be the case. Like, we don't really owe them anything. I pay my taxes. I'm happy to pay for the education of Clark and any other kid that's in there. But when something like this comes up, it's just another example for me. Like, I already had like a low opinion of public schooling as it is. This is just like one more thing to like bring that down another rung, and another thing to bring me up a rung on the possibility of homeschooling and what opportunities we can have. I think it could be one of the most amazing experiences for Clark, but can I incorporate the social side of things that he would be getting at school? Can I prepare him for a world that isn't just like as simple as hanging out with your dad and learning some school stuff, and when you're done with that, then you guys have fun and adventure and play things? I don't know what that's like, and it's a tough decision to make. Like, it seems like a very serious one too. So it's something that I'm kind of going back and forth with. Again, we're probably going to complete this school year. I mean, and probably get fined for going on these trips. Who knows? Maybe we can pull this off. Maybe a conversation will solve this. Because again, it was just a form that was sent in with a form sent back. No phone call, no discussion, no email, nothing. Just like a thing written that says the maximum day is 5 days. So maybe we can work through this. Maybe not. Regardless, we're going to continue with the plan that we have set forth, and we're going to see how this goes throughout the rest of this year. And then maybe beginning next year, we might make a move that could change things. So we'll, which is like, I guess the whole principle of this podcast is like, you can't really plan too far into the future, because you don't know what things are going to be like. And what you were in the past isn't necessarily what you are now, and your tastes change and ideas change. And all you can really do, and this is a lesson to myself, is be open to things. Don't come to ignorant assumptions of how the world is or how people are, because you don't know. And if you don't know, you can't judge. And I think that's a great takeaway from this. And I appreciate you guys for the feedback on all of the homeschooling stuff. I'm sure there's a lot more conversation we can have with this. I don't know if it's something that we should continue on in this, because I'm sure you're probably blue. Am I blue in the face, or you blue in the face for me talking about this? But it's what's going on in our lives. Pretty good week, outside of the whole schooling debacle thing, but we'll work through it, and I'm sure everything's going to work out just fun. So on that, I hope you have a glorious week this week, and we'll see you all in the next Missing Pieces episode.